my name is Ciro Nunes. I'm a Google developer expert in Angular and web technologies. I'm also an Angular trainer. I live here in Melbourne, and you can find me on Twitter, Ciro Nunes Dev. And today I want to share with you some things that I learned with 3 people that I like. So the first one is Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm a big football fan, and for me, he's my favorite player, of course, and he's arguably the best in the history of the sport, even though he's not the most talented player. He's the most hard worker. And what I've learned from him is that hard work and discipline really pays off. So by watching this guy and his life, I learned that, the most important thing is to practice. This guy is the first one to get on training. He's the last one to leave. It's not by coincidence that he's the best. He's got the most titles of best player of the year and so on. So taking this to our context, we should just go and practice the commands of the CLI. We should practice everything that we have in the CLI. And as I said, if you want to master Angular, you have to master the CLI because it's the tool that takes care of the whole workflow for us. And now, some cool commands for you. So, you might know most of them, but I'll try and share some things that I find interesting. Hopefully this is going to be useful for you. So what probably everybody knows in this room is that when we're starting a new project, we just run ng-new and we pass the name of the application. And we can also pass some options into the new command. So for example, in this case, I'm initializing my application with routing, and I'm also giving a prefix to all of my components. I'm giving the prefix AC in this case. And notice that -d in yellow. This is a very interesting thing that not a lot of people know. You can do dry runs of the CLI commands. And yeah, this is the shorthand for dry run. So if you just attach -d to all commands that generate something, you can run them through without really making any changes to the file system. So you can actually go and practice as much as you want. You can play around with the different options, and when you're happy, you just remove this -d, which is kind of debug mode, and then the command will commit the changes. Recently, in the version 6 of the CLI, they added support to the command ng-add, which is pretty cool. So, for example, it's not a very good experience to install every single package by hand and then wire them up together, include them in your ng modules and so on. So the CLI does that for us. In the case of the Angular material, you just run ng-add, and this installs all the packages, for example, the CDK, which is a dependency of the material package, and also install some schematics to generate some material components. So later on, you can do stuff like that. So ng-g, and then I'm running a material schematic, in this case to generate a dashboard, and then I just pass a name to my component, and this is going to generate a complete dashboard in material design for me. There are more, you can generate navigations and so on, tables, but the idea here is the possibility of actually automating this whole process. Yeah, if you went to my workshop, you're familiar with this one. You can also enhance your existing application to become a progressive web app. You just have to run the progressive web app schematics, and it does everything for you. You can also update packages, so it's also a pain in the ass to update all your packages manually, and the CLI can do that for you, and you can explore with the different possibilities. So for example, in this case, I'm using --all to update all of my packages at the same time, and I'm doing --next which means that I want to update to the latest version, including betas and RCs. So if you're feeling adventurous, you can just try and run this in your application and see what happens. And you can scaffold pretty much everything. Even like less known things like guards or creating interfaces and stuff like that. There's one for app shell. So it's just a matter of exploring. If you have to write something before you start typing, just have a look at the CLI and see if there's something to get you started. Most likely you have a generator for that. You can also scaffold, for example, universal into your application. You just use the universal generator, the universal schematics, and then you, just like that, you add support to Angular in the server to your app. And also another recent addition to the CLI, which I found pretty cool, is to scaffold libraries. So this has been requested for a while, and they finally introduced support to it. It's really cool. You just run ng generate library, and you give it the name of your library, and it scaffolds a library for you using ng packager. And it's pretty cool because it gives you the whole thing, like the whole workflow. So you just get started. So you just start coding. You don't have to worry about anything, build systems and so on, how to publish the library later on. The CLI already took care of that for you. So we were talking about practice, right? So I'm going to give you a hint. After the conference, go and use this command and create a library yourself just to play around with it. It's pretty cool. You learn a lot about Angular and the CLI. And the last command that I found cool to put in the slides is the I18N command. So if you need to do internationalization for your app, you just have to use this command, and it will extract all, from your templates all the text marked within the I18N pipe and create a translation file for you. So you can even pass those translation files to translation companies and put them back into your application. That's really handy. Actually, this is the last command. So again, like I always mention in my talks that a very interesting way to learn more about stuff is to actually understand how it works behind the scenes. And the way you can do this with the CLI is by ejecting your Webpack configuration. So you can actually have a look and tweak it, play around with it as much as you need to, just learn more or to customize it to your needs. Minko also mentioned the possibility of extending the CLI, and there are articles in the internet. So just recently, some people are exploring with the possibility of customizing your CLI builds without actually having to eject. So that's also a pretty cool option to do so. So the takeaway from Cristiano Ronaldo is to actually practice a lot and have fun. This guy's always laughing. Well, he makes a lot of money, so. The second person that I like is Nikola Tesla. With no doubt, he has a brilliant mind, one of the greatest inventors of all time. And what I've learned from him is that maybe the meaning of life is to actually create something cool and share with people, right? Like, that's pretty much what he did his entire life. He created stuff, actually awesome stuff. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his discoveries, and he shared that with people, right? And the way we can do something similar with the Angular CLI is by using schematics. Who here knows what schematics is? All right, not a lot of people. So schematics are pretty much a way, it's like a workflow tool to apply transformations to your project. By transformations, I mean installing packages, changing code, scaffolding code, and that's exactly what the CLI uses behind the scenes within the generate command or the ng-new command. So we can also create our own. And the way that this works is based on rules and trees. Rules are pretty much functions that receives a tree and returns a tree. And trees are actually data structures that have existing files and a stage area. So when the CLI is doing work, actually it's modifying trees instead of the file system directly. And this is what the dry run command does. So if you're not running in dry run mode, it will actually commit the changes to the file system. And this is pretty cool because it, as I said, it allows for dry runs, but also for reusability. You can share those schematics that you created with your friends, and you can also extend them easily. So I'm going to quickly get you started with schematics. It can get quite complicated, so I'm just going to show you more or less how you work with it. So to create your schematics, the first thing you have to do is to install the npm package. So install the schematics CLI, and then you can run this command, schematics blank, to generate a new project. And then you pass the name of the schematic that you want to create. And then you define some rules, right? Those rules to modify the trees that will actually do some changes to your project. And the way you do this is by, of course, importing some tools from the dev-kit schematics package. And then you create those rules just by, creating a function that takes a tree and returns a tree. Pretty simple. So with that, you can start to create and modify files and to do some crazy stuff that you want. So in this case, I'm just creating a file called hello, and I'm passing the string word into this file, and that's all. Notice how I'm exporting this function called my component, and the way that the schematics tool picks this up. Oh, sorry. One step before that, you can also chain external schematics. So you can run external schematics within your schematic, so you can combine them together. So pretty much I can take something like the Angular PWA schematic and chain it with my own schematic and add some more stuff on top of that. It's pretty easy. You just import this external schematic and the chain method, and you chain them together. Nothing really fancy, right? But I was saying, we export this function called myComponent, right? And the way that the schematics tool picks this up is by using something called collections. So when you generate a blank schematic, this collection file comes by default. And look at how I'm just describing my component, and then I'm telling the name of the function that I'm exposing that will run when I call this schematic. So that's pretty simple, and that's pretty much what all of the schematics are doing. When you run ng add angular/pwa, it will pick up this collection file, and then it will run some schematics that will be available for you. So after that, you can just bundle and test it locally. The way you do this is by running npm run build with just run npm run build. The schematics blank project already gives you the build system, so you just run it, and you can invoke your schematic like that. Notice how I'm passing the dry run false in this case, because schematics by default will run all the commands as dry run. So if you actually want to commit the changes, you have to explicitly specify that. And you can debug then pretty much like any other Node.js project. You just do node, inspect, and then you run schematics, you pass the name of your schematics, and this will start the node debugger for you. So you can use your dev tools and do work. And the way you use those schematics within the CLI, like when you're happy with them and you actually want to use them into your Angular project, you just have to go into the application you created and then do npm link to the path for that folder that we created in the beginning with the blank command. And yeah, you can start using it with the generate command of the CLI. Pretty simple. So, as we learned from Tesla, when you create something really cool that other people can benefit from, please remember to share, okay? And if you want to learn more about schematics, there's this free book from a fellow GDE that's pretty cool, generating custom Angular code with the CLI. I definitely recommend this one. Okay, just a moment for the picture. And the last person that I like is the younger me. I've learned so much from me in the past, especially because I was super lazy. So I'll share with you some of the things that I liked. And the first one is to memorize the shortcuts and type less. In the case of the CLI, you pretty much don't have to type the entire command. Usually, just the first letter of a command will do the trick. So try it out when you're practicing. It's definitely a game changer to type less, I think. So just a few shortcuts for you. You don't need to do ng-new, just ng-n. Not this is like, oh my god, I'm typing 2 characters less. But you know, in the long run, this is actually pretty cool. Another thing that I learned from myself is to ask for help. Of course, was too lazy, so asking for help all the time rather than trying things. And well, the thing was, I had some pretty cool coworkers when I started my career, and they were always telling me, okay, let me Google that for you. You need help, so let me Google that for you. And the way we can do this with the CLI is pretty much by using the help command. So when we run ng help or just ng, we'll see all the available commands, so we can actually practice them, explore them all. That's something you have to do as an Angular developer if you really want to master the framework. And even more handy is to get help per command. So if you're not sure which options you can use to a certain command, you just have to do the name of the command minus help. So in this case, I want to use the universal generator, but I don't really know what are the options that I can pass to it. So I just do minus help, and yeah, it's gonna tell me what I can do, and then I can explore with the different possibilities. I can use dry run to play around a little bit, and when I like the result, I can commit the changes. Another thing that I've learned is that the best way to learn a new framework, I worked with React, Vue, and Angular, and well, I can definitely tell you the best way to learn from a framework, besides reading the source code, of course, is by reading the docs and actually trying to contribute to the docs as well, not just reading them. And the CLI has a handy command for that. So you in your terminal, you're doing work, and then you're kind of lazy like me, you just type ng doc and the term you want to search for, and this is going to do a search into the API. And if you want to search in the entire site, you can pass -s, and this is going to search on everything, not just the API. And that's what you get when you run, for example, when you run, for example, ngdoc update, it just points you to the docs, and well, embrace the docs, read them through, you definitely learn something. All right? So the takeaway for this talk is to actually practice the commands and use dry run so you don't mess up unnecessarily. Use and create schematics like Tesla taught us. And the lazy Ciro taught us to use the help command and to read through the docs. And more than that, stay curious, explore the opportunities, and use your creativity, create something cool, share with your friends. And that's all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much.